Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Muriel, and in this video I am going to give a bit of commentary on the next to last trailer we got for the Rings of Power TV show, and I will be dropping this video the eve of the release of Rings of Power Season 1, because additionally to the commentary on the trailer itself, I would like to give some thoughts about my expectations for the show and some, let's say, contentious thoughts perhaps, and also this will have to do in lieu of me actually commenting on the very first episode of the show, because when it releases I will be in London and so I won't watch it until next week. So first, just going to let the trailer play, pause it and inject some comments, and then go into the meat of it, shall we say.
We thought the war at last was ended.
So right here, I'm just going to state this outright. I'm very confused about exactly what Amazon bought in terms of IP, because this reminds me of the Battle of Unnumbered Tears or the War of Wrath, Silmarillion territory, and I was under the assumption that they couldn't touch that. But then that's going to be kind of a recurring motif as I go through the trailer, and as with most of the trailers I've watched for Rings of Power. I'm very confused about this. Not that I would mind seeing Silmarillion material, and again, I don't want to see tarnished by Amazon either. Also, things to say about Galadriel, but it kind of makes me laugh that she says, oh, we didn't expect we would basically run into trouble again, and I'm like, you're Galadriel? And you're intimately aware about the history of your people? You're like one of the oldest characters by the time of the Lord of the Rings? You should know this! You yeeted Morgoth into the void, the OG big bad, but you still know some of his minions are around, so why are you that surprised? Anyway.
Today, our days of peace begin.
We thought our joys would be unending.
But so again, that's the thing. Really? You actually thought that? I didn't get that vibe when I finished the Silmarillion personally, and also this is another recurring complaint. What's up with these short-haired elves? That's just offensive to me. I'm sorry, but no, you need that long hair, long, flowy, elegant, ethereal hair. No short-haired elves allowed. Please and thank you. Like, what the hell? Put some effort into this, for fuck's sake. Also, yay, children running through the fields, it's so peaceful, la la la. I'm gonna be very snarky because I have very low expectations for the show. Also, another reason why I'm not actually commenting on the most recent trailer, it's because it features a too modern sounding pop song type thing, and that's just, again, massively offensive to this average Tolkien nerd. I'm not the hugest of Tolkien nerds. I haven't read the history of Middle-earth or every single thing published by Tolkien. I'm a reasonable tier Tolkien nerd. I've read Lord of the Rings, I've read The Hobbit twice, The Silmarillion twice, I've read Unfinished Tales, and I've read The Children of Hurin, Beren and Luthien, and The Fall of Gondolin, the last two of those not being actual, narratively coherent stories, but hopefully you know what I mean here. So I'm a decent Tolkien nerd. Also, this.
Thought our light would never dim.
The skies.
I mean, again though, Ungoliant? Hello? The two trees? You know this, Galadriel, like, who are you? This is not Galadriel. She should know this. You know the light can dim.
Are strange.
Also, why is the default accent for the Hobbits West Country accent? Don't get me wrong, I approve. I like it, because my English family comes from the West Country, Wiltshire to be more precise, so, but I still kind of think it's funny, because it's like the quintessential farmer accent as well for some reason. Also, the comet, I don't know what the deal is with that, but, whatever.
It is here, Galadriel. The moment we feared.
Based, like not even adapted anymore. Based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. Just saying. I'm assuming that's Nimloth, but I would have expected a bit of a more majestic tree, I guess. I want a big, majestic white tree. This will have to suffice, I suppose. I told you, snark mode is on 1000%. And this literally reminds me of a scene from either the trailer, one of the trailers, or one of the episodes of the Wheel of Time. Like, it feels to me they reuse the set, which, not illegal, right? But I'm just getting the same aesthetic vibes, and I don't want that. This is supposed to be Tolkien, not Robert Jordan or the Wheel of Time. And I'm saying that, but a lot of Wheel of Time fans are very angry with their adaptation, so...
It does not sleep. It waits.
I'm sorry, but that dude is just not Sauron. That's Sauron, right? No offense to the actor, I'm not saying he's not a good actor, I'm not saying he's bad looking or anything, but Sauron is an angelic figure. Well, I mean, to be more accurate, he's a Luciferian figure. He's supposed to be beautiful, charismatic. I would expect something a bit more traditionally masculine, maybe, which might sound weird coming from a gender-critical feminist, but that's just the way it is. Just a certain average standard of male beauty and just, yes, poise, charisma, long flowing hair, and just fine features, but also maybe, menacing. I'm not getting that from this man. Question of personal preference, I suppose, but he's just not giving me Sauron or Myron or Anatar vibes. No.
Beyond the darkness, tempting shadow, to bury us all beneath the mountain.
And this also, is this what? The burning of the ships Aqualondi? I doubt it, because again, Silmarillion territory, so what the hell is this? Or maybe that's from the actual show, she gonna go into battle and things burn.
Not one name, but many.
Like most characters in the Tolkien-verse, Galadriel, again, you should know this. Most of you lot have at least a couple of names, because there are a fair few different languages in your world.
Have you heard of him, lad? Have you heard of Sauron?
And cue the creepy claws, because of course. And the creepy creature, because of course.
If the evil rising is left unchecked, it will take us all. Find the
Burning of the ships of the faithful? Maybe? And yeah, the human-elf romance, because it's not as if that shit is super rare in the Legendarium and very bloody significant, lore-wise. No, nothing to see. Nothing exceptional to see here.
And the shadow will not find you. Together we can survive this! Fight with me. Each of us must decide who we shall be.
Is Olmo just kind of going to pop by and throw in some sea monsters? Because that's his domain, right? Again, Silmarillion territory, so... Or maybe they wanted to have a monster like the tentacled thing in the Fellowship. Maybe that's what this is about.
There can be no trust between hammer and rock. Eventually, one or the other must surely break.
Again, not Sauron. Sue me.
You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
Sure. I'll give points for the Balrog, though, because, let's be real, Balrogs are cool. I mean, fantastical creatures generally are cool, and Balrogs extra cool. Though again, is it just to, have this echo of Peter Jackson's movies? I don't know. So, okay, I already mentioned the fact I don't really know what exactly they're adapting, what they have the rights to. I'm feeling Silmarillion vibes, but I guess there are some elements that correspond to what happens in the Silmarillion and the Akhlabeth that you can find in the appendices of The Lord of the Rings, I think. So maybe they're going off of that and then extrapolating. I'm not a fan of the medium to short-haired elves. Those are not Tolkien-verse elves. Just know. There's of course the skin color thing, which I will come to and which I mentioned as well in my commentary for the first episode of House of the Dragon. I am going to go into an explanation as to that, but I'm keeping that for the end. Yeah, there's the elf-human romance. Like I said, that kind of bugs me a little bit because it's supposed to be very bloody significant lore-wise, but you got to throw in that not really racial, interspecies, subspecies romance for the peoples. Okay, fine. You have to throw in the hobbits, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry, they're called Harfoots. Fuck that, they're hobbits. Harfoots are kind of hobbit. And so what, you need hobbits because once again, you need to pull in the people who fell in love with the Peter Jackson movies. And then there's Galadriel. Okay, I mean, there's not just her, but let's focus in on her for a little bit because I've seen quite a bit of back and forth about that. Warrior Princess Galadriel, Amazon Galadriel. Okay, I've actually looked into this because I wanted to have an informed opinion. So like I said, I'm not the uberest of Tolkien nerds. So I went on the good old internet to get some intel. Apparently, there are some allusions to Galadriel having been reworked until basically right before Tolkien's death. So he envisioned her quite a bit differently between the time he first created her and by the time he passed away. And apparently in some of his letters in the latest book, the Tolkien Foundation released, The World of Middle-earth, there is mention of the fact that Galadriel was very athletic. I guess she was on par with other men, other elven men, a bit like maybe Atalanta in Greek mythology, so she could run very fast, and she was good with arms, as elves are generally skilled at a variety of different things. And apparently Tolkien himself envisioned her as a kind of Amazon, so yes, a kind of warrior woman. But between that and affirming that she defo was a military commander, an outright professional, you see what I mean, warrior at the time of Numenor and the fall of Numenor, so during the Second Age, I think that's a wee bit of a stretch. So it's not the most inaccurate extrapolation possible, but it's still a bit of a stretch. At least I think it's a bit of a stretch. As far as I understood it from reading Unfinished Tales, Galadriel and her husband, you don't really see her husband in the trailer actually, I'm a bit surprised by that. They were more like ambassadors and diplomats and skilled politicians going around Middle-earth and Numenor, etc, etc. So I'm a bit meh about it because the thing is, Hollywood now, Hollywood adjacent, has this whole thing of trying to go for faux, and I insist on the faux feminism of badass women or badass female warriors, but there are many different ways of portraying fully human or even powerful female characters, and kind of going for the default of the badass warrior princess rubs me the wrong way given the bullshit politics surrounding this kind of stuff generally. So that's my opinion about Galadriel. I'm not entirely against it. I need to see how it's portrayed on the actual screen. Because from what I've seen in the trailers, meh. She doesn't speak to me as the Galadriel I came to know. The actress looks decently like her though, don't get me wrong. Her voice, unfortunately for me, really doesn't sell it when you compare it to Cate Blanchett's voice, but okay, that's not her fault, but I mean, couldn't have cast a woman with a more similar voice to Cate Blanchett's? I'm sorry if it sounds mean, it's nothing against the actress. I have nothing, absolutely nothing against any of the actors or actresses playing in this. I'm sure they're going to do the best job they can. My critiques are about the world building and the adaptation of the source material, just to be very clear here. So the race swapping thing, or I mean the skin color swapping thing, because the whole, race as a concept is already kind of, you know what I mean. First though, can we just take a moment to notice that they couldn't be fucking bothered to give this dwarven queen, don't know what her name is, a beard, when female dwarves in the Legendarium are described as having beards. More than that even, they're described as basically looking like male dwarves. They're even less sexually dimorphic than Homo sapiens is. And I'm like, what's up with that? It's very cool and progressive to change the skin color, but what, giving a beard is just too gender non-conforming, not sexy enough for gen pop? I call bullshit on your politics if that's your reasoning. So racism bad, but gender-conforming sexism, that's cool beans. I get, for one thing, very intense about the things I love, like any, good and self-respecting nerd. I'm also autistic, and well, I get autistically nerdy about things. I'm the kind of nitpicky bitchworm. I've called myself this in several of my videos that was upset when Saphira, a fucking dragon, was CGI rendered with feathers in the abysmal movie adaptation of Christopher Paolini's Aragon. And dragons don't even exist, sadly. Dragons aren't real animals, yet I was annoyed that a dragon main character wasn't portrayed accurately enough in a fucking movie adaptation. I am the kind of person who was annoyed that the Targaryens in Game of Thrones didn't have purple eyes, or I mean Daenerys. And yes, I am still, in fact, miffed that the Targaryens in House of the Dragon don't have the appropriately colored eyes. I'm the kind of woman who was annoyed when sci-fi's abysmal adaptation of A Wizard of Earthsea, I believe, and The Tombs of Atuan's Dead was cast as a white dude. Is very much not a white dude in that universe. In fact, most of the humans of Earthsea, and most of the humans, I might add, in Le Guin's fiction more generally, are not pale-skinned. They are brown-skinned, or yeah, some shade of brown. She has a very logical reason for that, actually, and the pale-skinned people in Earthsea are the minority. But no, there they had to whitewash the main character. And on it goes. This shit annoys me. I like things to be, for one thing, faithful to the source material, or if it's historical fiction, faithful to the period of history being portrayed. Like, I know there's an adaptation, apparently, of Macbeth with a dark-skinned main actor playing Macbeth, if I got that right. And fine, it's a play, you can adapt it any way you want, I guess, but it's still about a very specific period of history, and I'm sorry that there weren't African-looking gentlemen in, 10th century Scotland? I'm sorry, that's just not a thing. In theatre, it's a different story. I think theatre is more about the performance than accurately portraying lore or world building precisely, but again, that's my opinion. Your mileage may vary, but I'm not fussed about this when it's an actual play performance. But in a movie that pretends to be, a historical drama or historical fiction, it bugs me, yes. And it bugs me with adaptations of SFF as well, because you do need internal logical consistency when you're adapting an imaginary world. And I am sorry, but the Legendarium's elves are pale-skinned. That is how they are described, and there's a reason for this as well. There are dark-skinned people in the Legendarium. The Haradrim and the Easterlings, I believe. You could have made a plotline with those people and cast people that fit their physical descriptions. That would have been very interesting. I saw someone say, why not have a story about the two blue wizards going down into those regions of the world? That could have been cool, actually. But I am sorry, Tolkien's elves are not that color. You could have cast a very pale-skinned Asian person, because there are very pale-skinned people in, broadly speaking, Asia that would have fit with very dark raven black hair. That would have fit some of the elves, because there are different lineages of elves in the Legendarium. But the gentleman, the Sylvan elf, I believe, now, not only is he the wrong skin color, but again, with the fucking super short hair, what the fuck is that about? They couldn't even be asked to give him a long wig. Even with Corlys Velaryon, they actually bothered to give him silver white hair to have that Valyrian feature. I mean, they're dreads, which is a bit silly, but fine, it's still that. This Sylvan elf, they couldn't even be asked to give him long hair. Just like they couldn't be asked to give the Black Dwarven Queen a fucking beard, because that's too progressive, I guess. I understand the desire and the need to have accurate representation in fiction. However, if you are a fully matured human being, you should also be able to relate to characters in a story without them looking exactly like you physically. Now, like I said, I get the need for representation. I also understand, wanting to see your culture or your cultural heritage being represented, because there is something to the relationship between a people and its place. Its, broadly speaking, birthplace. I'm interested in Celtic spirituality because some of my ancestors come from the British Isles, and it kind of speaks to me through that. So there is something to be said for the relationship between human beings and their ecosystem. So I do understand that aspect. But then adapt stories that fit that desire instead of changing something which just doesn't naturally fit. So do it better, is my point. Instead of taking an established IP, which will not have specific features you want for whatever reason, either create your own or take another that does feature the things you want. Okay, I didn't particularly like the Broken Earth trilogy, but you know what? And you can hold me to this. If they actually adapt it, I will fucking watch it. And that is a brilliant opportunity to have basically an all non-white cast. Hell, like I said, Ursula K. Le Guin's fiction basically mostly features non-white characters, because in her mind, she's like, in the future, Terrans will be even more miscegenated than we are today. And, well, actually, varying shades of brown is the default color for human beings. People my complexion were actually the minority globally, if you think about it, which is basically from Europe, bits of the Middle East, that appeared when we started drinking milk around, what, 10,000 years ago, something like that. The genetics of that are actually very interesting if you want to look into it. On a fucking adaptation of The Left Hand of Darkness, the main characters will have to be some shade of brownish, not me. You could also adapt Octavia E. Butler's works. Huge fucking name in SFF, one of the greats without a doubt. Adapt Parable of the Sower. The main character is of, you know, African American heritage. I mean, you have the book Rage of Dragons, you have the book Black Leopard, Red Wolf, Red Leopard. You know what I'm talking about, hopefully, if you're aware of SFF. You can do that. You can adapt the Poppy War, for fuck's sake. You can adapt Asian-inspired, and it's so reductive to say Asian because Asian covers a shit ton of different cultures, just like when we talk about Africa, Africa covers a shit ton of different cultures, same for Europe, same for Mesoamerica, etc., but you could adapt those things if you wanted to. The will has to be there, though. Now, I don't know what it's like to be a fan of the Legendarium and not have Mr. Tolkien's skin color, let's put it that way. But surely if you love that universe enough, that doesn't matter that much ultimately. Like, again, The Left Hand of Darkness is one of my favorite books of all time. The main character, or the main characters are not even women. I mean... the Fenians evolve, so that's a bit complicated, and they're not white, and I fucking love that book. One of my new favorite books has a fucking crow as a main character, not even a bloody human being, and I could relate. So relatability, again, doesn't, well, ideally it's not just skin deep, you know what I mean? Whether you like it or not, and you're absolutely allowed not to like it. Tolkien's Legendarium was conceptualized as a mythological tale of sorts for the English people, pulling from Celtic lore, mythology, culture, pulling from Anglo-Saxon mythology, culture, and from Tolkien's own Christian faith, of course. You cannot care about authorial intent. I don't really, but that is the context around the creation of the Legendarium, and it does inform the way it developed, and its world-building, and its lore, and the looks of its peoples. Again, you're allowed not to like that. You can decide, you know what, for the next 10 years, we're not doing any kind of story that features European history, or white folks. I mean, if that's what you want to do, fair enough, we could do that, and then after those 10 years, it kind of levels the playing field, and there'll be a bit of everything for a bit of everyone. But the Legendarium was not conceptualized to have the kind of mixed population you have in big metropolises in Europe and North America. And Tolkien was a masterful world builder. If there were meant to be dark-skinned elves or dark-skinned dwarves who live underground, he would have written it as such. Again, you can choose not to like that, but then leave it alone, is my point. Then leave it alone. We have the Peter Jackson movies, we have all the books and the illustrations by Alan Lee, Ted Nathsmith, etc. Then just leave it alone and adapt something else. Like I said, it's essential for works of SFF that often take place in secondary worlds, imaginary worlds. For those to be believable, they need to be internally logically consistent. Otherwise, it breaks the reader, the viewer's suspension of disbelief, which, you know, defeats the fucking purpose of it in a way. I mean, not the entire purpose, because you have theming and stuff, but still, the point is to immerse yourself in another world, and then this stuff happens, and I've read similar comments about The Wheel of Time, that the Village of the Two Rivers should not have had the kind of population it did, because they should have been rather inbred, apparently. And again, I'm sorry to bring this up, but this kind of goes for Corlys Velaryon. Okay, I'm squaring it in my mind as his mum was from the Summer Islands. But the thing is, it could pose problems for the whole succession plot, with children being bastards or not. So how are they going to explain that away? And I mean, all the Westerosi in King's Landing are just completely fucking chill with Corlys Velaryon looking like he does, when they're not exactly the most progressive of folks either. I mean, they weren't by the time of Game of Thrones. Why would they be even further back in time? It just kind of looked weird to me, you know what I mean? He was just there, surrounded by white people. It kind of looked weird, because I know that that's not how that world functions, though. Again, I have nothing against the actor. He played the part very well, I mean, so far in any case. But why? And the fact is, I know why, because it's to school fucking virtue signaling points. But don't kid yourselves, these people don't give a fuck about real life politics. They don't give a fuck about actual social justice. They don't give a fuck about racism or feminism or anything else-ism. They just want your money and your, I guess, outrage to get, well, that money rolling and that involvement rolling and your views, etc., etc. And unfortunately, I'm actually participating in that phenomenon myself by even making this video. But I needed to get my thoughts out there. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, woke anti-racism is just racism masquerading as anti-racism, and woke anti-sexism or woke feminism is just sexism masquerading as feminism, with the whole badass female trope without actually digging behind that and trying to understand what is gender, what is sex-based oppression, and instead of actually exploring colorism and where do xenophobic feelings come from, no, just shove in differently colored peoples even though it makes zero fucking sense within the context of that created world, because yay, diversity. I think it's bloody pathetic and stupid. Mildly annoying too, because I do care about law and accuracy, because I am a nitpicky bitchworm. That's the moral of the story, basically. And of course, besides the greed, they're doing it because they're riding on the coattails of the great J.R.R. Tolkien. Instead of creating their own IP, which needs to, well, prove itself, they're just leeching off something already well established and celebrated and praised and recognized for its value, well, in literature, I mean, in SFF literature most definitely, but even in literature in general. Like I said, it's kind of pathetic and sad, but that's just the way it is. And who knows, maybe Rings of Power will be very good, and I'll be very pleasantly surprised. You never know with these things. I mean, I have strong suspicions, but you never ultimately know. If you want to scream at me in the comments that I'm a bigot, you're obviously free to do so, but I hope you're above that. On a more serious note, if you want to share your thoughts, predictions, expectations about Rings of Power, or about the Legendary more generally, or about adaptations, the state of adaptations, and politics, feel free to do so in the comments down below, or why not on the Discord server? There is a link for it as well in the description box down below. But in the meantime, I hope you will have a lovely day, evening, or whichever time of day you prefer. Do take care of yourselves. Thank you for the continued support. If you do watch the, release of the show tomorrow, I hope you enjoy it. Let's hope for that. And if you don't, you're free as well to just come rant in my comments or in the Discord server. Okay, I'm stopping now. So I'll see you all in another video, probably a book review. But until then, bye-bye.